Hey, what's going on, fam? How you doing? And welcome to the Samuel Cologne Show. Sam Cologne, aka The Messenger. And on today's topic, we're going to be speaking upon letting go, aka surrendering. And the power and the courage that it takes to surrender is but a fraction, a little minute decimal of the power that happens when you do surrender. Like a lot of us, we go through the process of surrendering where it seems like it's this hard thing because of the story and the emotions. And I'm not saying it's not, because for me, there was a lot of things that I had to process to surrender that it was really hard for me. I mean, even to the physical pain. But I realized that during that surrendering process, the insight, the power, the overall energy of abundance and love that came after that surrendering did transpire was amazing. It was like so worth it times 100x. Forget the whole 10x thing, 100x. It was just an amazing experience. And so I want to dive in today on this topic of surrendering and letting go. And I want to start off with a story. Right? And so I have this gentleman that I met. Let me not call him a gentleman. Let me stop being formal. A brother, right? Because when he came in, it wasn't like we knew each other or this and that, but it was an instant click. And I'm like, yeah, this is a soul brother. I could feel it. Right? And so when we spoke, I wasn't named the messenger for no reason. It's like literally, like words were pouring out specifically for him. So much so that his energy, his reality shifted in that one conversation. And at that point, we know that we were soul brothers at that point. And what happened from there is more of become like a confidant for his journey, the things that that's transpiring for him, right? And before I get into the story, I do want to give a full disclosure about when it comes to medicine work. There's something sacred and beautiful about it. But I also want to tell you that you don't need it. You don't need it. Everything that medicine can provide you, you have it already. That medicine simply does cleanse you so that you can see what you got. It's like literally, they talk about when you refine gold, right? So when you bring the gold to the goldsmith, the guy that refines the gold, they heat the gold up. And they heat it so much so the impurities to rise up. And they scoop it. They take the impurities out. And they crank up the heat again. The impurities come up and they scoop it again. And so they crank it up and they scoop it again until they can see their reflection in the gold. That's how they know it's ready. So the medicine work, when we talk about ayahuasca, kambo, bufo, and all the sacred medicines that the indigenous culture has held that sacred beauty and wisdom for us so that we can experience it, that's what it does. It cleans up all the impurities so that you can see the gold that you are. And so I want to share with you that I truly have the utmost respect for the medicine. However, I want to tell you also you don't need it, because everything that you are, you already are. All right, so let that sink in for a minute. All right, let's continue. So we have this brother of mine. He went and did a journey this weekend, and he did combo, and then I believe the next day he did bufo, right? So he had the shaman facilitating and everything. And when he called me to give me his story about what happened, he was super excited because what it is that he was able to embody during that time. And he's like, he knew, like he felt this. And I know what he's talking about because I experienced it too. He felt this calling within himself, these things that he knows, these abilities that he knows that he has, but his mind doesn't allow him to accept it. It's like, dude, you crazy. What are you talking about? You could put your hands on somebody and they're going to heal, right? Like, what are you talking about that you can send your thoughts and positive waves to somebody and shift somebody right away? Like, what are you talking? Like these are things that we're taught to think like, oh, you're nuts. You can't do that, right? What are you talking about that you can do hand mudras and gestures and change the energy in the field? What are you talking about? That's nuts. But the truth is, when you step out, this is what I'm talking about, letting go and surrendering, then that uniqueness that you are can shine. It can step in. That gold can come out and shine. It can step in and show off. Show off the ability that you have. Because your mind is not in the way saying like, hey, that's not real. That's not supposed to happen this way. That's not this. That's not that. But what starts to happen, what happened to him, let's go back to him. What happened to him in this ceremony, as he's going through the process, he was able to shed all the noise and all the nonsense and everything in his mind that he thought, that was blocking him from being able to do the things that I'm going to explain to you that he did. And so as he went deep into the medicine, what started happening is the shaman intuitively knew that he was getting to that point where he was shedding all the nonsense, that he's now in that state of being completely open and he can now channel spirit. Spirit could do the work in him and through him. So the shaman said, hey, I want you to help me out with this, and put him right on the spot. And then in his mind, now he's going back to the ego and the mind, and he's like, oh, okay, can I do this? Blah, blah, blah. And guess what the shaman did? He's like, take another hit of this and gave him some more bufo and got him into that state of not being in his mind anymore. And what happened was he started to move his hands in certain gestures. And he's like, I had no idea what I was doing. No idea. But as he started moving his hand in certain gestures, he started to feel certain activations in the body. And he started to feel the energy around his body. Started to feel the energy in the room. And the more he started doing certain things, he's now started to pick up the sounds and the frequencies of the people in the room. And he was starting now at that point, now he's communicating with another person in the room telepathically. And for those of you that might think like, oh, this is some fucking bullshit. If you haven't experienced this, it doesn't mean that it's bullshit. And if you haven't experienced this and you've been on this journey, it's because you're still stuck in your head and you haven't let go. And so as he started to do these things, at that point, he started to let go even more. Because he's like, I don't know why I'm doing it, but I'm just doing it. He started to let go more and let go more and let go more. And now at this point, now he's up above the gentleman that he was helping out. He's moving energy around, shifting things around, pulling things out that it shouldn't be in the energy field, right? And helping this gentleman. And the person that was laying down that he was doing work on, their eyes were closed. They had blindfolds. And he's realizing as he's watching himself, because he took a step back, he let go. He's watching himself do all these things that he's doing. And as he's doing, the body that was on the floor was moving. So, for example, if he's moving over here by the right shoulder is moving. The guy has a blindfold on. It's like, it's dark in there. He can't see what he's doing. So now he's building more of a belief. And the more of that belief came in, the more he was able to let go of the noise and just keep on doing what he was doing. And so at the end of the night, he realized that what happened to him was that he stepped out. This ongoing consciousness, the ego, was able to step out of the way. You can practice to do this without the medicine. You could be in this state most of the day if you want, when you integrate your ego into your being. But when they're separated, you need to have something to assist you. And in this case, it was the medicine that assists him to put the ego in the back seat. And as he's observing all this, he just had a beautiful experience. And then at the end, he was so overwhelmed with what had happened that he was in tears, crying. Just like overwhelming joy of like, wow. And then also having a realization that the reason why he couldn't do this before is because he was caught up in his head. Now with these experiences, these are just like glimpses. right? These are glimpses. And this is why I say you don't need the medicine, because the medicine gives you the glimpse, but it doesn't last. Like, these experiences don't last. But if you start to practice on a daily basis to let go just a little bit more every day and get into that state where you let go of the ego and you can feel nothing but energy, light, waves, and allow yourself to surrender into that space and then expand into that space a little bit more, a little bit more, and a little bit more. You then, from there, you start to recognize and become familiar. And when I say you, I mean more of your ego starts to become familiar with it, right? Because you can force the ego to take a step back because of the medicine. But what happens when you're working on your day-to-day and the ego has to step in to help you, right? To run the day that you have, the family, the work, the business, the aspirations, and all the things, all the magical stuff that you experience doesn't correlate with what it is that you're doing. Because the ego is like, nah, that's because I was on some medicine, or I was on this, or I was in that environment. But when you do this, I call it more like spiritual microdosing, right? Because you don't need the medicine, right? Let's call it spiritual microdosing. When you start to allow yourself to embody and integrate this, what starts to happen is that you start to train your mind, you start to train your ego. Because if you do too much of it, well, too much medicine, people go into psychosis and they get caught up in it. Not only do they get caught up in the psychosis, now they get addicted to the medicine, and without the medicine, they can't function. And because they feel like they're so separated from reality, and the medicine keeps them, that had to be done, all right? So the medicine keeps them in that loop of keeping them in that state because they're afraid to step out because they're so detached from integrating the ego to their reality with the abilities that they could do if they allow themselves to microdose into that space versus trying to use the medicine to rip the Band-Aid and get you into that space momentarily. And then when you're no longer in that medicine, now you're like, oh, wait a minute, I don't really like this reality anymore, right? So it's just like learning how to spiritually microdose and getting into that state on a daily basis. And when you get into that state of daily basis of surrendering and letting go, you start to create a gap between your reactions and everything that you do, right? When you start to create that gap, there's a more scientific approach from an author, Viktor Frankl. He talks about the gap between the stimulus and the response, right? And so that gap between stimulus and response starts to expand. And it starts to expand in such a way that time does not even seem relevant. Like, it doesn't seem like it exists when you start to expand this time. And when you start to do things, from a place where you have ample time to analyze, to bring the best version of you, to tell yourself, okay, how am I going to deal with this? Is this a secular matter with the people around me, or do we have to bring this to a different spiritual aspect? Do we sprinkle a little spiritual and more secular? Like, you start to integrate it all, because you also got to realize the state and vibration that you're in, or with the people that you are around, creating that collective reality that you're in at that point in time. So learning how to like ebb and flow and create harmony with this is key. And you start off by surrendering on a daily basis. Sam, how the fuck do you surrender on a daily basis? Simple. You close your eyes. This is simple. Don't make the shit hard. Simple. You close your eyes and you start to breathe and you start to feel the energy on your skin. Just start off with that. And then as you breathe, start to feel the energy outside of you. And then breathe even deeper and start to feel the flow of the energy within yourself. And then the more you do that, now bring the energy from outside of you and within you, have them come together. And then let go of the fact that you have a body and allow that vibration and that frequency and that breath to all become one. And start off with doing that maybe 5 minutes a day, and then 10 minutes, and then 15 minutes. And just start doing that and start to see how it starts to change you. And when you start doing it, you're going to have such a big difference and how you are, how you be, how you feel, that you're going to want to do more. And the more that you step out, the more that you start to realize your abilities. And the more that you're going to hear those subtle hints for you to do certain things. It's like, let's say me, for example, when I was going through this fast, I got this little voice telling me, I need you to fast for 9 days. No food, just juices and water, right? Freshly pressed juices on a daily basis. So I did it. I did the 9 days. By like day 7, my body was purging. I had this crazy fever. I had these crazy visualizations that I'm not going to share today. And I went through this purging process. But when day 8 and 9 came, I felt amazing. So much so that I'm sitting in meditation and I'm feeling cold and hot air coming out of my hands. So I'm telling myself, like, again, the ego, like, are you tripping? What is this? Like, okay, you're not throwing no hair, you're not doing that, pendejo. You know, and so like, I'm like, no, this is something. And then guess who happens to knock on my meditation room? My wife. You good? Well, you're in. Come in. I'm like, sit down. Still in the meditative state, she sits down, and I just put my hand on her and just allow the energy to flow. And she just like moved away, like, oh, what the hell is that? I'm like, what do you feel? She said, I feel like it's really like warm. There's warm vibration coming through me. I'm like, okay, all right, come on the other side. Just come on the other side. Put the other hand. And she's like, wow, it's like this cold vibration wave coming through my back. And I'm like, okay, so I'm not going crazy, right? And so like, allow doing this process. And the reason why I'm sharing with this is like, because your mind may think you're going crazy because you're not used to it. But if you train your mind and do the spiritual microdosing, your mind starts to integrate that into your reality. And you don't need medicine to get you to know the abilities that you have. You start to walk in your own strength, not using the medicine as a crutch. Again, the medicine is a beautiful thing. But I see far too many people using the medicine as a crutch because they don't believe in themselves. And the way that you start to believe in yourself is by doing it one little bit at a time. It's just like Indiana Jones in that scene where he had to cross over that big canyon, right? Where he had to walk and there was no steps there. There was nothing. But what he had to do is just take one step at a time. When he took that first step, boop, oh, he felt something solid. And the next one, boop, and then the next one, boop. There was nothing there, but he was able to find his footing there, right? Because he was taking one step at a time. It's the same thing with you. You start to take those one steps at a time, and you allow yourself to integrate these things that you are capable of doing. You just need to train your mind that you are capable of doing it, right? Because if you just think about it, it's like someone knowing something a certain way, and then all of a sudden, it's just completely different. Or just rip the Band-Aid. You can lose your shit. Right? So there are levels of protection that we do have in this mind of ours that serve us. Right? But there are also, let's call it, some people call it the opposition, the dark lounge, or whatever you want to call it. But there are the other parties out there that use these things as a way to entrap you. A way to entrap you within yourself, right? Don't allow that to happen anymore. Like, no more. You're not going to allow that to happen anymore. No more, right? From this moment on, you're going to realize that those techniques no longer work on you anymore because you're going to start taking the time to take those spiritual microdoses and start to like maneuver and start to learn how the brain works. And you will get the answers. You're going to get the guidance to say, when you do this, this happens. When you do that, this happens. But if you don't give yourself the space and the silence to do that, ain't nothing going to come through. Nothing. The only thing you're going to have is the noise of life and all the shit that you got to do and that you didn't do anyway, right? Because let's keep it real. Most of us got a laundry list of stuff to do, and we maybe get done maybe 30%. If you're a high performer, maybe you get 60%, but you never get it all done, right? Because you're constantly caught up, like, I got to do, I want to do this, and I got to do this, and I want to do this, huh? Give yourself the space, at least 15 minutes a day, till you don't have to do shit but connect with yourself. And allow that process to start giving you that spiritual microdose that I'm talking about. And if you do it, I guarantee you're going to understand what I'm saying. If you've never done it, and you don't do it, you will never understand what I'm saying. Give it a try and start to see all the impurities being sifted off, so that you can now be in that power, right? And so what I did, what this gentleman, what my brother, what I was telling you, the gentleman that I was sharing to you about, all he did was the medicine gave him that place to not be caught up in his head anymore. And he was able to drop into his heart. And from that heart space emanate that pure unity energy, allowing him to do things that he kind of felt in his heart he could do, but his mind was saying, there's no way you can do this. And moving energy around and doing things to help people heal and so on and so forth, that we can all do that if you choose to. Now, there are some of us that we've been sent here for that particular reason, to teach, to share a message, right? But there are some of you that only you, if you decide to be in your authentic self and integrate everything that you be, that only you can help this person. It could just be one person. Just one person. But you will never be able to do that because of what it is that you're not doing. Right? So let's start to bring this all home. All right, let's bring this all home. And we're talking about, again, letting go and surrendering. And how do we do that? With the practice that I was sharing, just sitting in silence, starting to become familiar with the energy on your skin, the energy in the room, the energy within you, and bringing them all together. Doing that for 15 minutes a day. And as you do that, you're going to see, like the story that I shared, the impurities rising and you being able to sift them right off or scoop them right off. And as you do, you just keep on doing your daily spiritual microdose. And as you start surrendering and seeing this process happen, because that's what's going to happen. You're going to start seeing it happen. As you're starting to do it, you're actually doing it. But as you start to do it, you give yourself the space where you actually see what's happening. And when you start to see what's happening, your mind starts to learn. And as you start to realize how the mind works and how you can give it the information it needs so that the things that you are capable of doing are not foreign to it, then you intuitively will be guided to take certain steps and do certain things that your mind now is ready to expand to understand. But if you are not ready, then this information will not come through to you because you will go into a deep state of psychosis and going crazy and all this craziness that we have protective mechanisms in our mind to help us. But if you start to follow these steps just a little bit at a time, creating the tolerance of what seems to be, this mystical world or this place of magic, and allow yourself to take these spiritual microdoses, then you can integrate it into your everyday life. And as you start to integrate these things into your everyday life, you will then start to become whole. And as you become whole, you become one with all. And as you become one with all, shit's going to change. All right? So until next time, sending you guys so much love, many blessings. God bless. Peace.